What's going on, guys, and welcome to today's video. And today we are doing more work on Project JK Rescue. Mom's new to her Jeep Wrangler JK. Now, if you guys haven't seen the previous videos, this thing didn't look as good as it does, or at least as good as I think it currently does. We had some interesting wheels on it. We had some interesting taillights. It wasn't my taste. And again, in the Wrangler or Jeep world, everybody modifies their vehicle to their liking. And when you buy something used that has had some modifications done to it, they may not be to your liking. So we got a little 3/4 inch rough country lift. We've got our wheels and tires. We're slowly working through this thing, making it look really good for Mom to daily drive, as this is her daily driver now. But one thing that she did not want to give up, going from her Subaru BRZ, I know, quite a change from a Subaru BRZ to a Jeep Wrangler, but I had added a backup camera to the factory Subaru head unit. It had a screen radio. There was a guy online making harnesses that you could add aftermarket cameras. It worked very seamlessly. Put it in reverse, boom, you're there. This is a 07 through 2018 Jeep Wrangler JK, and they never had backup cameras from the factory. The first backup camera on a Wrangler was in 2018 on a JL, or the current new body style Wrangler. So you may be saying, well, gosh, are you going to put an aftermarket radio? What are you going to do to this thing to make a backup camera work? And the cool thing, or how we kind of lucked out here, is this Jeep is equipped with the My Gig radio, the 430N screen radio. So we are going to be able to just program and add a camera to this thing, and it's going to work like factory. Now, programming, I guess that's going to be the first thing I would want to get taken care of before I even buy a camera for the thing, just to make sure I can get it taken care of. There's a couple of ways to do it. Step one, to me, is just the easiest way. Yes, you're going to have to go to your dealer, though. But step one, to me, again, the easiest way is going into your dealership with your JK and you having that factory radio and saying, hey, I need to add the vehicle options code for the backup camera. Now, they may say, well, these don't have backup camera, but hopefully you've got a decent dealer or a good technician or a good service department. If they go to their Dealer Connect and they go to vehicle options ads, they can scroll down and find Park View backup camera as a available option that you can add to a VIN number. So that's what I did at the dealership. Added the Park View backup camera option. You save it to the VIN number, and then the vehicle has to be reconfigured. Again, all of this is done at the dealership. You wouldn't be doing any of this as the owner. And then once that is all configured, I will show you, once we jump in this thing, after the programming, you put the vehicle in reverse, the screen goes black and says check surroundings. So it knows now that it should have a backup camera signal, but again, we don't have one installed. So we need to add a backup camera now that we are programmed. Again, the second way, there are some aftermarket programming ways. I believe you can use Alpha OBD, and there is a car app. Again, there's a couple of different ways that you can go in and mess with the configuration on the vehicle yourself. If you're only doing the backup camera, though, man, I'd almost just say play it easy, play it, simple. Go to the dealership. Yes, you'll probably have to spend $100 maybe. It just depends greatly on your area and what that service labor is going to be. It shouldn't be any more than an hour's labor, but again, depending on the labor rate and your location, that could vary decently on how much they're going to charge you. But around an hour of labor, and again, just call the dealership up and ask them what that charge would be. So this thing is now programmed. We need to add our backup camera wiring, I guess, if you will. So I will show you the kit. I'll show you how it currently works, and then we'll hopefully get this thing installed for Mom. Okay, guys, so as it stands right now, when we get in the vehicle, turn our key on, and put the vehicle in reverse, you see we have a black screen with check entire surroundings. Now, all that is telling us is the vehicle now knows that it is programmed for a backup camera, and it is activating that backup camera, which it currently does not have installed on the vehicle. So we are going to need to install the camera, run the wiring all the way up, and tie into the back of the radio. Now guys, if you look online on eBay or Amazon or whatever, there's going to be a million different kits that are available to do this very thing, that plug into the back of the factory my gig radio, and will then display an image. I did a little research, and then I actually saw a Jeep with this same brand of camera, and it looked clear and the mount looked decent, so I went ahead and ordered this specific one. Again, these are just all Chinese kits. These are not, some US quality. Again, I understand these are all just Chinese kits, but we've got our wiring here that is going to plug into our camera, and then we've got a couple of different wires we're going to need to hook up for signal. Here is that factory connector here that is going to plug into the back of the radio so we can have that displayed correctly. And then here is our little camera that mounts and does have a little bit of adjustment to it, so you could pivot and move that thing. This kit, funny enough, comes with a nice roll of electrical tape for you, a little bit of hardware here, and then a trim stick to start removing trim, which is kind of cool. We've got a few zip ties here, and then last but not least, the bracket or mount, which is going to go behind the spare tire. So I think I'm going to get the camera mounted up first here, get the spare tire off, and get that mounted, and then we will start our wiring process forward on the vehicle. Alright guys, so once you get the camera mounted, you may have to, this does have adjustability up and down and everything, so once you get it adjusted for your wheel, you may have to put it on and off a few times to try to get it spaced correctly for your wheel or aftermarket wheel. We are ready to start running the wiring. Now, I am going to try to just run it with the factory third brake light wiring. There's already a grommet here. We're going to be able to go through and just go ahead and tag into the factory harness there. So. Now here on the inside of the tailgate, we've just got a couple of panels. This has a couple of clips all the way across the bottom, then it will pivot up and you can pull that off. And then this little panel here, we can also get under and get the clips popped. So we can remove that. Again, both of those, you can pull so you can actually get to your wiring. So guys, now that we've got our wiring at least ran into the back of the tailgate, now the daunting task of running the wiring from basically the back of the vehicle all the way to the front of the vehicle. Now, I'm probably not going to show too much of this because there's not just one way to do it. There's going to be a million different ways depending on if you're pulling trim or just tucking it into gaps and tucking it behind carpet. But we are going to follow our wiring here. Again, if you wanted to pull all of this trim, you definitely can, but we're eventually just going to end up running under the trim, under this carpet, and working our way forward. Now again, in the back seat here, we're going to follow our carpet, we're going to follow our trim, and again, keep working forward through or under the trim. And continuing forward under this trim. Again, you can pull these clips. You can get as fancy or as factory looking as you want to, or you always can just tuck your wiring. Again, make sure you push it up under the trim so it's out of the way, doesn't get stepped on, pulled, torn, whatever. And then we are going to end up here in this front wheel well. So I think I'm gonna cut here and get all of my wiring ran, and then I will pick back up once we are back up at the front and ready to start taking the radio apart. Now I will mention the wiring will need to be connected to the taillight, so I will obviously show that, but I'm going to at least get the big harness ran right now. All right guys, so I've got that wiring ran all the way up front, got it tucked under the trim and zip tied into places with the factory harness up under the carpet. Luckily on a Wrangler, it is relatively easy just to kind of flip that carpet down and run that wiring. So I am routed all the way up to the front wheel well area, or excuse me, the front footwell area, so we can then tuck up into the dash. But we do have to do a little bit of wiring here at the very back of the Jeep. Now, along with our camera wiring that runs up and all the way forward, we do have a power and a ground wire to power the camera there. Now, the ground wire obviously needs to be grounded, but the power wire needs to get power intermittently or only on certain times. Otherwise the camera's just powered on all the time. So we are going to need to tag into the reverse light wiring. So anytime the reverse lights are on, i.e. you're in reverse, the camera will have power and display an image on the radio. Otherwise it will be powered off and not just be on. Now again, luckily for Wrangler owners, with the carpet pulled back and this trim kind of pulled back out of the way, we can see the wiring harness here that goes to the factory taillight. It goes right through this rubber grommet and down into the taillight area. Now, again, it's gonna be hard to see, but we do have a black ground wire, and then we've got a white with purple wire, a white with yellow, and then we've got a white with gray wire. Now, even the little instructions that came with this thing properly told me the correct white with gray wire is the wire for the reverse light power. So I'm going to need to take the red wire here and connect it to that, and then the black wire obviously to the black ground. Now, again, there's a million different ways to connect wiring in the automotive world. There's guys using Scotch locks, butt connectors, a number of things. I'm going to go ahead and trim the insulation back, solder these into place, and then electrical tape them. It's just a little more sturdy connection, but it does require, I guess, a soldering iron and heat and all of that kind of stuff. So it is interior of the vehicle. So if you are somebody that wants to just quickly use a Scotch lock, something like that, I'm not going to speak poorly on you since it is in the interior. Again, I'm going to be using a soldering iron and soldering that wiring. So again, I'm probably not going to show that. I'm just kind of showing you guys the process here. Every, vehicle's going to be a little bit different or what have you, but this here, I've got the white with gray wire and then our black ground. So I'm going to go ahead and get that big, huge, long wire cut down, soldered into place, zip tied all up, and then I should be able to get the rear trim all put back together, and then we'll move up to the front radio. All right, guys, so last but not least, we've got our wiring, like I said, ran all the way up to the bottom of this floorboard here. And again, the end goal here is to get the wiring to the back of the radio. Is there one specific route that you have to take? No, just make sure you're not, on anything hot, moving whatever. There's heater core hoses at the bottom down there. There's just things that you don't want to be around. But again, you use your best judgment. You're going to run the wiring up to the back of the radio, but we are going to need to pull the radio here. So if you haven't pulled a JK radio, they are relatively easy. We've got a screw up here, a screw here behind the switches and then 2 of them down here kind of below the steering column. This is relatively easy. You just pull the lower steering column trim down, and it's got little hinges there on the bottom. The upper area is just a little rubber mat that comes out, and I believe they are 7mm. Yeah, so 7mm screws to get those out for the radio slash instrument cluster bezel. It does help to lower the steering column down so you have a little bit more room. And then last but not least, we need to get these switches removed. And there is just a little, plastic red lock tab that you'll slide to the side and then push that connector to get those switches out. And then, like I said, we've got that last 7mm there under the switches. Now, this whole panel will pull out from the dash. And then you can set that thing to the side. And again, the radio is just held in with 4, again, 7mm screws. And then we will drag the radio out, and we can unplug it so we can get all of our wiring ran up here. We'll have 2 connectors and then 2 antenna connectors. They are relatively straightforward. Press the tab and then they will pull out of there. And then this again is our wiring connector that came with our backup camera kit. And again, that will plug into our open spot here on the back of the radio, and then we'll have a backup camera input into the radio. So I'm going to work on getting the wiring tucked up, zip tied up and out of the way, and up here to the back of the radio area, and then I will jump back in and we will hopefully fire this up, and it should be working. All right, guys, I've got everything thrown back together. I obviously don't have the trim back on, but radio is in with everything hooked up to it. So here is the moment of truth to see if we have everything wired up correctly. We're going to just turn the key to the on position. Our radio comes on. That is a good sign. And then with our foot on the brake, we are going to shift into reverse. And hey, look at that. We have a backup camera image that looks very nice. Now, no, the MyGig radio was never a crazy high definition camera, but no, that is a very respectable image for something that could not have gotten a backup camera to begin with. So guys, we wired it up on our first try successfully. Now, no, it was just 2 wires there at the back and our, routing up to the front, and boom, we're done. Obviously, we needed to program also, but yeah, we've got a backup camera now for Mom, which is always cool. Now, are backup cameras needed? You've got mirrors. Just use your mirrors. Yes, I totally understand, but if you guys have been watching the channel for any amount of time, you know how much I love OEM plus things, or adding things to things that are kind of factory, or that could have been a factory option, or whatever. But the fact we are integrating the backup camera into the factory head unit, that's cool, guys. Even if you don't care about backup cameras, that's a cool mod, adding a feature to a vehicle that it never would have had before. So I'm going to get the rest of this trim thrown together, the radio screws, the trim screws, all of that thrown together, and then we have one last thing on today's rescue mission here, and it's something that isn't even broken that I'm fixing because it's something that I want to do. All right, guys, so last but not least, here in the garage today, we are going to take care of the headlights. Now, you may say, well, what are you talking about? You've already got aftermarket LED headlights in this thing, and absolutely, they are nice and bright, they work very well, but like we talked about earlier, Jeep people like to make it their own, and I'm going to probably anger a lot of Jeep people because there are a lot of Jeeps that have these aftermarket halo lights, but they are not my first choice or opinion, I guess, for lighting. I'm just not a fan of how they look. Again, if you have them, great, all the more power to you. They've got the, with the headlights on, they've got the halo ring, and you can also have them wired up to work as a turn signal. You tag them into your turn signal circuit, and then that outer ring will flash with the turn signal, which is always good. More light, more, turn signal is always better for alerting people on the road. But again, they are not my favorite. So what I've got here is just a very simple LED headlight. We've got a high beam, we've got a low beam and a high beam here. No halos, no turn signals, no nothing. Just a lot more simple headlight here to swap back in. Now, yes, this is a relatively inexpensive eBay or Amazon headlight, but so is this. So these aren't JW speaker that I'm pulling out or putting in. These are both relatively inexpensive Amazon, eBay headlights. But again, I just like this look or style better. So we're going to swap these out, and these things will find their way onto Facebook Marketplace and hopefully fund some of these front headlights, and it'll make it a wash for us here. So we're gonna get the hood popped, get these headlights pulled out. One thing I will kind of recommend if you are swapping headlights, whether it be your factory headlights or aftermarket headlights, whatever, if your current headlights are aimed like you'd like them, I'm here in the garage, I turn the lights on and I put a piece of tape over on the wall right where those headlights start or stop, whatever you want to call it, so I can know when these new headlights, I'm going to turn the headlights on and see if they are way high, way low, if I need to adjust them. But if you don't mark somewhere on your garage door or wall, you aren't going to know until you go out and drive at night and find that you're blinding everybody. So just something to keep in mind. Throw a piece of tape on the wall so you can aim your new lights, hopefully get them dialed in right away versus having to play with them at night and blinding people on the road. So we'll get the grill yanked off this thing, swap these headlights in, and I think that's everything for today. All right, so new headlights in. I went ahead and turned them on, and these ones were almost identical to my tape mark on the wall. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave my aiming the same, threw the grill back on, and I'll show you guys the final product here. So kind of hard to see here, washed out in the sun, but just a very simple high beam and low beam here, no halos, no nothing. And honestly, the back of the lens is kind of black, or at least it looks kind of black reflecting off of that centerpiece. And again, I know it's hard to see here in the horrible shadows, but man, it just looks a lot cleaner, simpler, whatever you want to say. Now, I do need to get rid of those halo fog lights and finish the look off here, but I'm happy with it. So guys, we still have a few projects left here on Project JK Rescue. We've got this front bumper I want to get cut down. We've got our heated seats I want to do. We've got a hardtop headliner coming. So we're still going to be doing cool mods or improvements or whatever you want to call them on this thing. That's why I've got those fog lights ordered so we can do our fog lights when we cut our bumper and have everything on at one time. So yeah. I just can't wait till we get in the garage, or the new garage, I should say, and actually have space lighting. So I'm not filming either out here in the sun or in there in the shadows. We can actually see what we're doing on camera. What a thought. Yeah, I know. Update slight on, or a little update on the house. We're supposed to be done at the end of this month. I don't know how that's going to be possible because there is an absolute ton of work left to do. That's where I am heading right now, is to go work on the house. Now, no, I'm not building it, but we seem to be doing a lot of work on the thing at the end of every night and on the weekend. So I'm gonna stop playing with Mom's new Jeep, and I guess I'm gonna head out to the house and start working. So guys, thanks for coming along on a kind of cool OEM Plus backup camera install and getting those darn halo headlights out of this thing so Mom can look a little bit cooler going down the road, guys. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.